On behalf of the Order of Malta, I welcome you to our webinar on testimonials from the 2024 winners of the Sisters Anti-Trafficking Awards, Religious Sisters Best Practices. Since October 2020, we have organized 41 webinars on human trafficking, focusing on the encyclicals Laudato Si and Fratelli Tutti. In these webinars, we have highlighted the importance of the work of religious congregations in advocating for and assisting human trafficking victims and survivors at the local and international levels. Today, we are honored to have three special speakers who have been and continue to be active in the field on behalf of human trafficking victims. Three sisters, winners of the Anti-Trafficking Awards 2024, presented in Rome on May 23, 24. First, Sir Marie-Claude Nadaf, Regional Coordinator of Wells of Hope, part of the Talita Kum network in the Middle East. After assuming the role of Mother Superior at the Convent of the Good Shepherd in Damascus, in Syria, in 1994, she founded Syria's first shelter for trafficking and domestic survivors, the Oasis Shelters, 2 years later. Its success led to the creation of other shelters with the full support of the government. Sister Marie-Claude also established Syria's first women's hotline, providing 24-hour counseling, legal assistance, and temporary shelter, and her advocacy led to a critical shift in the government's approach from viewing trafficking survivors as criminals to recognizing them as victims deserving of support. Second, Sister Anne Victory, member of the Humanity of Mary leadership team for 4 years, Director of Education and founder of the Collaborative to End Human Trafficking. In 2007, Sister Anne helped found the Collaborative to End Human Trafficking in Cleveland, Ohio, which focuses on education, advocacy, and linkage to services for trafficked persons. She was instrumental in developing awareness programs and actionable steps for the community. As a founding member of the U.S. Catholic Sisters Against Human Trafficking, now the Alliance to End Human Trafficking, Sister Anne works with Talita Kum to address the root causes of human trafficking. And third, Sir Gracie Luisa Rodriguez, founding member of the newly formed NGO Mukti Kiran, near Goa, a ray of liberation in India. The organization works with the Goa police to prevent human trafficking. Sister Gracie has been combating human trafficking in Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Goa for 30 years across. She focuses on protecting marginalized groups such as slum children and transgenders by conducting awareness sessions. In the 20th century, many Catholic religious orders established anti-trafficking programs. Guided by a belief of universal human dignity, sisters refuse to abandon anyone in need. The Arise Foundation, the International Union of Superior Generals, and the Conrad Hilton Foundation co-host the annual Sisters Anti-Trafficking Awards. The selected laureates were honored at the award ceremony in Rome in May 2024. To overcome poor internet connections, we ask the sisters to provide us with a video. They will participate in the discussion live. I would like to quote an expert on the critical lack of resources for the prevention, protection, and rehabilitation of victims, as well as the, I dare to say, scandalously weak implementation of legal instruments. And this underscores the importance of the work done in the field by sisters of religious congregations on behalf of victims. And let me quote now Kevin Hyland, Strategy Director of the Santa Marta Group, an alliance of police chiefs and bishops from around the world working together with civil society to eradicate human trafficking and modern slavery. Kevin was the first independent anti-slavery commissioner in 2018 for the UK government. And here is what he said in New York during an event at the UN organized by the Order of Malta on the 11th of January of this year. I quote, "Other crimes, for example, the fight on drugs, receive hundreds of billions of US dollars in yearly investment worldwide. Financial investment by governments to end human trafficking and modern slavery runs at less than 1% of the US dollar 150 billion made in criminal profit each year. This makes for an unfair fight and mirrors data showing that less than 1% of victims are identified each year." Second quote by Kevin Hyland, "The Santa Marta Group intends to find ways to increase prevention, including using the illicit 100 billion US dollars annual profits for good purposes, including reparation and compensation for victims, allowing them to rebuild their lives. These criminal profits would almost match the OECD's nations' entire 185 billion in official development assistance, showing the importance of making human trafficking a crime that does not pay. And indeed, in the vacuum of effective action, what could be done? And Kevin Hyland, as a strategic director, did draft and is promoting a 6-point strategic plan of the Santa Marta Group, 2023-2026. First, procurement and business culture. Businesses around the world benefit from human trafficking. This may be because they turn a blind eye, but it will always be when it happens because they haven't taken effective measures. We need to turn so that business are held responsible for what happens in their supply chain. Second, tainted money, removing the benefits of human trafficking, which are currently estimated at over 150 billion every year, should be confiscated and then used as reparation, victim support, and in the fight against human trafficking. We already do it for counter-terrorists, so we can do it also for human trafficking. Third, digital space to be governed by law. Technology platforms must be regulated and governed by law to avoid promoting human trafficking. Fourth, international instruments, revising and enforcing international treaties and commitments so that they are relevant for today's world. Fifth, international institutions, ensuring all international organizations use their platforms to fight human trafficking and promote human dignity. And sixth and last, moral compass, resetting the moral compass so that the human trafficking is seen for what it is and eradicating slavery becomes a priority for all. The Santa Marta Group's goal for the G20 countries to spend $30 billion annually on anti-trafficking structure by 2030. This may seem like a big task, but the US spends about 100 billion a year fighting drugs. It's hard to get to a collective 1 billion being spent by governments. And so, thank you, Evan. Thank you in advance for your support. I must say that this message by Kevin Hyland is definitely supported by Cardinal Nichols, patron of the Santa Marta Group, and definitely also by the Holy Father, Pope Francis. And so I would like now to give the floor by a video to Sister Marie-Claude Nadaf, and she is with us from Beirut in Lebanon.
هيدي حقيقة حالة نحن التقينا فيها بمنطقة هون بلبنان وهن مهجرين، وحكيتنا حقيقة عن المعاناة تبعها وكيف هي كانت ضحية إتجار. 2016 ابتدينا نشوف مخاطر الإتجار بالبشر. مشان هيك تاليتكم انترناسيونال بعثت ممثلة من روما، التقينا مع الاتحاد الرئيسات العامات، وهون الرئيسات العامات ألبسون الثوب إنه أنا بدي رافقة لهالمسار، وإذا كان مجال إنه نحن نقدر نقوم، لأنه اختبرنا إنه حقيقة الشرق الأوسط هو ساحة يباع فيها الأشخاص. ونحن شفنا إنه بلادنا هي بلاد تصدير، بلاد مرور، وبلاد انطلاق إلى البلدان الأخرى. نحن بلبنان نحن 15 شخص، نحن عم نشتغل على كل الأراضي اللبنانية. بسوريا في عنا فريق عمل، بالأردن عنا فريق عمل، بمصر عنا فريق عمل. نيري هلأ حتشوفيها كانت عم تعمل توعية للنساء، 15 امرأة. بآخر الصالة في بنت كل الوقت هي وتبكي، فالمدربة انحنت عليها وقالت لها إذا ما في عندك إزعاج فيني ساعدك، ليش أنت يعني بعتذر. قالت لها أنت كنت عم بتقولي قصتي.
أنا تعرضت لإتجار بالبشر لفترة 7 سنين. حطوني بالشقة، كان لازم كل يوم جيب مبلغ معين. إذا هالمبلغ ما أمنته يومية كنت تعلق فروج، يحرموني من الأكل على فترة معينة، تعرض لحرق بالسواقير بإجرية، في بنات ماتوا بالتعنيف. حاولت أهرب 3 مرات، 3 مرات لقطوني، 3 مرات تعرضت لأبشع أنواع التعذيب. تعرضت لإطلاق نار بإجري مرة منهم، تعرضت للحمل 3 مرات، جبروني أجهض بال3 مرات. بوحدة منهم كانت طريقة كتير قاسية، كنت سميها طريقة سياخ اللحمة. بفضل برنامج تيليتاكوم وبفضل نايري قدرت أوقف على إجريي، لأنه سمحوا لي أني أقعد بمحل محمي ومأمن.
مع الظروف الصعبة اللي لبنان عم بيعيشها من ناحية اقتصادية اجتماعية وسياسية، أكيد رقم عم بيعلى بالإتجار بالبشر. نحن دورنا بالأرض أنه نعمل بريفنشن لكل المجتمع، ونشتغل بعد أكتر مع هاي ريسك كيسز يلي هن أكثر عرضة للإتجار، كرمال نحميهم. وأكيد الأفراد اللي هن أصلاً متاجر فيهم عم نشتغل معهم على صعيد نفسي اجتماعي، وعلى صعيد تمكين اقتصادي واجتماعي، في حال أنه يرجعوا يعملوا انتجريشن بقلب المجتمع. نحن عم نكون عم نرافقهم لفترة معينة، أكيد الفترة يلي هن بيضلوا بحاجة لها وبدهم يانا.
Oh, merci, Sir Marie-Claude. Thank you, Sister Marie-Claude. And now we are going to the US with Sister Anne Victory.
I am Sister Ann Victory. I'm a sister of the Humility of Mary. My community was founded in France in 1854. And then because of the oppression in France, the entire community of 11 sisters and 4 orphans responded to a request from the Bishop of the United States in 1864 to move to the Diocese of Cleveland, Ohio, mainly to minister to French immigrants in this region. From our founding, the Sisters of the Humility of Mary served in quite a variety of ministries because they were responding to the needs of the times and the needs of their neighbors. So the early sisters were teachers of women and girls because that was not being done in France or United States. They were lace makers. They were sacristans in local churches. They were musicians. When arriving in America, they had to quickly learn new skills of farming, making bricks to build and repair buildings, and building relationships with the local residents, and nursing them during the smallpox epidemic. So they required new skills and gained them. They also became entrepreneurs because they needed money. They had none. And so they worked with the railroad workers in the area who could harvest timber off the land for their railroad ties. And in exchange, the sisters nursed their injuries and founded the first hospital in the region on the Mother House grounds. So sharing in Jesus' mission to bring more abundant life to God's people, our mission, especially the poor and the marginalized, we trust that God will provide all we need to fulfill that mission, whatever the times are. My community has certainly engaged in the so-called traditional ministries of education and healthcare, and also in pastoral care, social service, housing, and addressing social justice concerns over the decades. And we, along with 6 other religious communities in the region, learned about the issue of human trafficking in 2007. We saw it as a horrific human rights issue. We had no idea what that would mean, but we realized that we must respond. We learned about the complexity of the crime, and we knew right away that we needed to do this work together and enlist the help of many more to work with us. So because of that, the Collaborative to End Human Trafficking was founded in the Cleveland, Ohio area with a mission to educate, advocate, and connect services and resources on behalf of trafficked persons. The sisters who gathered from these communities and our lay colleagues who made up the Collaborative's steering committee at the time, before we became a nonprofit organization with a board of directors, came from the fields of education, healthcare, law, administration, and counseling. We realized that we could not provide the direct services ourselves that the survivors of the crime would need. But we all had contacts with members of these professions. So we focused on raising awareness, on advocating for more effective laws and their enforcement, and building relationships with those who could provide the direct services. We also realized that teaching people about the issue was a priority. Unless someone knows it, they can't do anything about human trafficking. Our educational programs included description of the issue, how big it is, who is vulnerable, what red flags to look for, and what the participants in the audience can do. That empowers them to take some action and not feel just overloaded and depressed by the issue. We did a study early in our work, and it confirmed that many of our professional colleagues were not familiar with the crime either, and did not know what to do if they encountered a possible trafficked person. But they were open to learning. They also saw the value of working together to provide the needed services, each bringing their expertise to the table for the sake of the mission of ending the crime of human trafficking. Because of that ongoing effort, the collaborative now works with over 75 agencies and organizations in the greater Cleveland, Ohio region. Efforts to increase awareness, advocate for victim and survivor needs, build a safety net, and focus on law enforcement eliminating the crime continue to occur, and they are done with an emphasis on trauma-sensitive and trauma and survivor-informed services. Because I was in this work, I was invited in 2013 to a meeting in Washington, D.C. of the sisters across the United States who are working to end human trafficking. We attended President Obama's meeting of faith-based and community partners at that time, and we explored together the scope of services being provided among us. We discussed how we might be able to work together for the sake of trafficked persons even more effectively. The outcome of that initial gathering was the formation of U.S. Catholic Sisters Against Human Trafficking. Now this organization is known as the Alliance to End Human Trafficking. This organization became a nonprofit in 2016. We discovered expertise, energy, and a strong desire to work together to weave a bigger safety net on behalf of trafficked persons. Like the collaborative, the Alliance continues to grow as a membership organization with over 200 congregations of religious coalitions and individuals who want to share in the work. We keep learning of the connections between human trafficking and other primary issues, such as migration, climate change, violence, poverty, and in some cases, cultural oppression. We know that the crime is often hidden, is global and very local, and is extremely lucrative for the traffickers. Although human trafficking by itself is not a religious issue per se, but rather a human rights issue of all faiths and no faith in the image of God. And all have a right to human dignity and to work that is dignified. Many people do pray for victims and survivors, and also for a change of heart on the part of the perpetrators, the criminals. Is this work challenging and sometimes discouraging? Yes, of course it is. Is that a reason to give up? Not at all. Every person who becomes aware, every effort to reach out, every new connection with others who share a passion for ending human trafficking makes a profound difference. Just knowing that so many others across the world have dedicated their lives, energy, and resources to ending the crime is encouraging and certainly blesses those who feel the most forgotten, those who are being trafficked. Both the Collaborative to End Human Trafficking and the Alliance rely on and are grateful for the grant and donation funding they receive for the majority of their work. Very few government funds in our country are available. The eventual outcomes of this important work are healthier individuals who receive needed trauma-informed services to heal from their experiences. As a result, families and communities are healthier as well. Survivors are more sure that they can contribute to society. They can raise their families. They can be employed in dignified work. Both organizations, the Collaborative and the Alliance, also benefit from the powerhouse of prayer support we receive from those who pray daily for the strength of both survivors and caregivers and leaders addressing this crime that Pope Francis has described as a scourge on the face of this earth. So many thanks to all across the globe who are engaged in this very important work. And thank you for inviting me to speak with you.
Thank you very much, Sister Anne Victory, for this very clear and comprehensive statement. And now I want to give the floor to Sister Gracie Lisa Rodriguez. She is based in Goa.
I'm Sister Gracie Rodriguez, and this is my story. Goa is a beautiful place. The nature, the beauty, the different cultures of people. In Goa, many children are kidnapped, put in the profession of beggary, child labor. We sisters are involved in empowering the children. Education plays an important role in the lives of our children. Good morning, students.
Good morning, sister.
By educating them, we help them to be safe from illicit trafficking of children. This is all people who are migrated from different parts of India. The living condition in slums are very bad. The people are very, very poor. The water, the sanitation is also bad. So we work for their empowerment. We also train the women so that they earn at small scale their own livelihood. The women now have confidence to take this forward to sustain their lives. I have been in Goa for 5 years and I see the situation, drug abuse, murder, rape, and Goa being the destination state for sex trafficking is becoming worse and worse day by day. But there is a hope. I see a light that gives life to the humanity. Through our network, collaboration with the police and our supportive systems, the beacon of hope can be brought in the lives of the victims of human trafficking, that whatever the cases has come, we did got justice for the victims of human trafficking. I cannot do it alone. I am just a drop in the ocean. So I need others' support, others' collaboration, and my first and immediate supporters are my sisters, and above all, it is God to bring hope, love, and mercy to the people. Here in my convent, we share our works, our mission. We participate in each other's joys and sorrows. So it is very important for all the religious, for all of us, that we collaborate in every field, in every ministry which we are involved with. So together as a community, we are walking together and we respond to the call which God has given us.
Oh, thank you very much, Sister Gracie. And actually, after those 3 excellent statements, I would like to say that participants could submit their questions in writing in the Q&A section. In the meantime, allow me to ask 3 questions to the 3 sisters, or at least to the 2 sisters who are with us online now. First, could you briefly describe your main strengths in your work against human trafficking? Second, what is the connection with your faith? Third, could you share 1 or 2 best practices? So, Sister Anne Victoria, I see that you are live here. So, thank you very much for being with us, and I give you the floor. Okay.
Strength would be that I've learned how to collaborate. And when we named ourselves that, it was quite a challenge then to have to live into the title of collaborative. We heard the word a lot, but we didn't necessarily know what it would mean for us. And we've come to know that it is about bringing our best gifts to the table, whatever they may be, and to share them for the sake of the mission. So it's all about building the relationships and making sure that we respect the gifts that others bring and learn from them. And then together work for what is best for those who are being afflicted and oppressed by the crime of human trafficking. There's a lot of energy and a lot of excitement in being able to do this, and there are a lot of challenges to doing it, because we've learned that some people come to the table just because they don't want to miss out on anything. That doesn't mean they necessarily want to share their gifts. So it's a pattern of growing. It takes patience. It involves living with the messiness sometimes and continuing to focus on those relationships that are key to the victims. I would say that's one of the biggest learnings I've had, and it's come to be one of the ways that I have been able to be a part of this. I've also learned that it takes a different style of leadership than the command and control kind that we usually think of. It takes a facilitating style, and I believe that's sort of a natural gift for me, so it's important for me to learn how to share it in these circumstances and to bring my best to the table from my own profession, which is as a nurse, but also from what I have been learning from all others who are participating with me over these years. So that would be my answer to the first question. Okay, well, you asked also about the impact on my faith and how my faith feeds into my ability to do this work. I have found that I need to be very much grounded in prayer daily and throughout the day in order to continually focus on this is God's work. It is not mine. I can't do it alone. I must rely on God to do it with me and to guide me along the way. So that's always a focus of mine on a very daily, but also sometimes minute to minute focus, and to ask others to pray for me and to pray for us who do this work. So that's one of the ways that my faith does contribute. It's certainly been the way that Jesus does this work. He was always reaching out to those who are vulnerable. And I believe that's what we are called to do, but through the mission of the gospel. In terms of best practices, one of them I would say is learning collaboration, as I mentioned earlier. Another is to keep learning, because this crime doesn't have just one way that it shows itself. And a third would be to regard what survivors can contribute to this work as extremely important. They have lived through the agony of this. They have so much to teach us. It's not what we think they need, it's what they know they need. And I guess a fourth would be to help people make the connections among the various other social issues and to be empowered to do something themselves. So our presentations often include, what can you do? Whether it's if you just tell your family what you learned, or tell 2 other people, or pray, or learn the red flags and recognize them, or know who to call if you see something that just doesn't seem right. So those are some of the things that I would say would be best practices at this time.
Oh, thank you very much. Very interesting, dear Sister and Victory. And now I would like to ask Sister Marie-Claude.
Bonjour, bonsoir. Je ne sais pas quelle heure est nos spectateurs. Je vous remercie beaucoup de m'inviter à ce plateforme pour parler d'une expérience de l'œuvre de Dieu dans les âmes, vraiment l'œuvre de Dieu qui accompagne chaque personne dans sa vie. Pour vous dire mon expérience, bien ma force, je puise ma force dans le charisme particulier des sœurs du bon pasteur qui est allé à la recherche de la brebis perdue. Aller à la recherche ça prend du temps, ça prend aussi beaucoup de force et beaucoup d'audace d'essayer de rejoindre les personnes dans leur réalité, de les comprendre et essayer avec la personne elle-même qu'est-ce qu'elle peut faire et qu'est-ce qu'elle peut demander à notre service d'aide.
Okay.
Parce que c'est très important qu'il y ait cette relation de confiance entre la personne qui aide et la personne qui demande de l'aide. Si je vais continuer, mais je ne sais pas si je vais continuer ma démarche, les bonnes pratiques, ma foi, croyez-moi que sans cette rencontre intime, journalière avec le Seigneur, à l'écoute de l'Esprit Saint, je ne peux absolument rien faire. Je ne peux pas donner cet amour de compassion. Je ne peux pas conseiller à quelqu'un si je n'ai pas puisé cela à la source. Et si je veux dire sincèrement notre travail, personnellement, je crois très fortement au travail d'équipe, de collaboration, de ressortage, recréer des liens avec les autres réseaux internationaux, nationaux, régionaux, si vraiment je vais continuer à aider la personne jusqu'au bout. Et nous travaillons spécialement pour la prévention, la conscientisation dans les quartiers les plus pauvres, dans les quartiers qui sont à risque. Et cela, nous détectons cela par le travail de nos équipes sur le terrain, qui eux-mêmes nous reportent les besoins de ces quartiers, de ces personnes. Et c'est dans ces séances de conscientisation que nous découvrons et aidons les femmes et les enfants qui sont dans l'état d'exploitation et de trafic. Et nous essayons autant que possible, si on trouve une femme qui est vraiment victime du trafic, ou bien des femmes à risque ou des enfants à risque de trafic, à ce moment-là, nous rentrons sur le terrain et nous proposons nos programmes de l'aide à ces personnes, de sortir, de leur trouver un chemin pour les aider à sortir de cette situation. Et voilà. Et spécialement, je veux dire, nous organisons des séances d'autonomisation empowerment pour les femmes, pour leur trouver un moyen de vivre en dignité. Je veux dire que pour moi, les relations humaines et le réseautage avec les organismes régionaux et internationaux sont une force pour moi pour aider ces personnes à trouver leur dignité, à trouver du travail, à trouver leur dignité. Pour les victimes, je prends le combat pour que ces personnes-là qui sont à risque dans le pays, là où elles sont, à trouver des organismes pour le relogement de ces personnes. Et là, je vous fais appel, Monsieur Michel, à votre organisme, parce que j'ai 2 cas de femmes qui sont vraiment à risque et en très grand danger. Je peux dire que ce travail ne peut pas être fait sans prendre le risque et être audacieuse et d'aller jusqu'au bout. Et si je veux dire, employer tous les moyens pour aider une personne à se mettre debout. Oui, maintenant, les bonnes pratiques, si vous voulez, ça se fait par une prévention dans les quartiers pauvres, dans les centres paroissiaux, dans les organismes caritatifs pour leur donner une conscientisation de ce problème, parce que jusqu'à présent, on ne peut pas parler dans notre pays de trafic. Nous appelons ça exploitation. Exploitation de tous les genres. Parce que, par exemple, sur un terrain, une grande autostrade du côté de route, vous pouvez trouver des petites filles de 9 ans à 14 ans et 15 ans, 16 ans, qui sont là, qui attendent, qui peuvent embaucher. Donc, on fait beaucoup de descentes sur le terrain pour faire la conscientisation. Je veux dire que aussi, nous essayons de faire des sessions de formation pour créer des groupes de volontariat pour nous aider. Mais là, nous trouvons beaucoup de mal à engager des jeunes parce qu'ils ont besoin de travailler, ils ont besoin d'être payés. Et puis, nous n'avons pas le nécessaire, l'argent pour leur donner une petite subvention, pour leur âger d'université. C'est un peu dur. Mais nous faisons cette année beaucoup ce qu'on appelle advocacy. Advocacy dans les universités. Et puis sur le WhatsApp pour faire un petit peu de scientisation. Nous faisons ces plaidoyers, nous créons, par exemple, des journées de marathon. Journées de marathon où on peut, par exemple, dans un camp. À ce moment-là, tous nos équipes descendent sur le terrain et les jeunes, les enfants, les grandes personnes sont divisées en petits groupes. Et notre personnel, si je veux dire nos collaborateurs, ils font à ce moment-là la conscientisation et dans les universités et dans les paroisses, nous parlons beaucoup de ce fléau du trafic et combien cela est répandu dans nos pays, dans nos cultures, dans nos familles, mais malheureusement, personne ne veut pas le reconnaître. J'aimerais vraiment faire un appel pour ces deux femmes et qui sont deux Éthiopiennes et vous connaissez la situation en Éthiopie et qui ne veulent pas rentrer dans leur pays parce qu'elles sont recherchées. J'aimerais bien, si vous pouvez nous aider pour le relogement de ces deux femmes. Mais j'ai beaucoup de choses à vous demander pour les autres petits, pour les autres pays qui n'ont pas la liberté de parler. Par exemple, comme pour la Syrie, c'est moi qui dois faire le plaidoyer pour les organismes parce qu'elles ne peuvent pas toucher de l'argent en Syrie. Mais c'est moi qui dois faire le lien. Et si vous voulez répondre, faire de conscientisation, de l'éducation, et nous venons maintenant vivre dans la ville de Homs en Syrie une session de 3 jours et nous avons touché 600 enfants et jeunes dans un centre catéchétique des sœurs du 5 heures où nous avons la possibilité vraiment de faire de la conscientisation et d'aider et d'alerter aussi les familles. Et dans cette ville, nous avons rencontré un groupe de jeunes universitaires syriens qui sont extraordinaires, qui travaillent avec les enfants de la rue et qui passent des nuits aussi à accompagner ces enfants. Merci beaucoup.
Oh,
Et j'aimerais bien vous dire une parole de Sainte Marie Veuthey, la reconnaissance et la mémoire du cœur. Un cœur qui n'a pas de reconnaissance est un pauvre cœur. C'est pourquoi j'aimerais vous dire ma grande gratitude à vous, à votre organisme, à vous, à vos collaborateurs qui sont vraiment, je veux dire, des agents cachés parce que sans vous, nous ne pouvons vraiment pas arriver à ces personnes.
we will stay in touch and
Merci beaucoup.
we,
Merci et bonne soirée. Et je suis obligée de quitter
oui.
parce qu'il n'y aura plus d'internet chez moi.
Ah, d'accord. Ma sœur, merci mille fois. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup. Merci. Bonne soirée à tout le monde et bonjour à tout le monde.
Tous mes vœux pour vous et pour votre pays et pour
Merci
la paix.
beaucoup. Merci.
Pour la paix.
Et puis, si vous avez l'occasion de passer au Liban,
Oui.
nous serons tellement, tellement heureux parce que l'Église aussi serait très heureuse. Les communautés religieuses qui nous soutiennent parce que sans l'Assemblée des supérieurs majeurs du Liban, nous ne pouvons pas travailler.
Oui.
D'accord.
Okay.
Merci beaucoup. Bonsoir.
Okay, merci. So, thank you very much. Actually, Sister Marie-Claude was just saying that she would be happy to see us in Lebanon, and that actually the church is also very happy to stay in touch with other believers, other Christians, other Catholics in the world, and definitely I think that's very important. Sister Anne Victory, would you add something in conclusion, so to speak? Because you have a very clear explanation. I like very much the way you present simply complex issues.
Well, thank you. One of the things that Sister Marie was talking about was the importance of engaging with younger people, children.
Yes.
And I would concur with that. I think it's extremely important for them to know the issue as early as they can. And that's sometimes a challenge because parents want to protect them from such kinds of information. But it's really a safety thing. They need to know, and they need to know how to keep themselves safe, but also their friends, and how to stay safe on social media, which is the way much of the human trafficking is taking place in many parts of the world, including the United States. It's a very difficult challenge for us to be addressing here because children are not afraid of the internet at all. Their parents may be, and their parents don't necessarily know what their children are doing online. So I would add that as a very necessary thing, and one of the things that we want to spend even more time on.
No, thank you very much. That's very important. And as you say, how can we prevent this use of internet to spread actually violence, to spread pornography, to spread false job offers, and actually it's a very tough job. I think we need to ask governments. We need to ask governments at the state level, at the domestic level, and also international level to be sure that indeed service providers will not allow such dissemination of bad pornography, of bad job offers, of indeed all those traps which after that make young children dependent on violence, on sex, on whatever, may say, relationships which are actually very dangerous for them. So it's a tough job because we need also to pressure not only governments but to pressure also the service providers. And I don't have to tell you that at times they are more powerful than most governments. So we need to raise public conscience, and I think public conscience, religious sisters, and especially religious sisters with field experience of what is human trafficking, could actually use this, their field experience to lobby, and actually, I do believe that, for example, in the US, you have an excellent US Conference of Catholic Bishops. You have, as you mentioned, those Sisters Against Human Trafficking, and definitely you could use those institutions. And
another way that people can help is if they are investors.
Yes.
Find out about the companies with whom they are investing their funds, and then make sure that that company is not supporting human trafficking in any way through their supply chains or through their policies and practices. And just for instance, the social media networks, those providing that kind of service, all those apps that children are very attracted to. We have a listing of those who are doing better because they've been, people have been on their case about it, and those who are still not doing a good job and allowing their practices to get children having access to improper materials. So it's important to know who the companies are, what their practices are, and how they are enforcing those practices, and to be an active person. If you're an investor, to be an active one, and to go to speak to the companies about what you prefer and what you really don't want to see in their products.
No, thank you very much, Sister and Victory. Actually, we should come to a close. We should conclude this webinar, and I also wish you a happy 4th of July, of course.
Thank you.
Because you will be celebrating that today and tomorrow, and possibly over the weekend. But thank you very much, Sister and Victory. Thank you very much, Sister Marie-Claude. And Sister Gracie gave us a very interesting video also on the training. And indeed, I would like to say you are all welcome to participate in our future webinars online, most probably in September. You shall find the registration links on our website at laureates.org. As we conclude this webinar, I would like to thank Yves Reichenbach and Emmanuel Piloso for their contributions. In a few days, you will find a video recording of this webinar and of the 40 webinars we have organized with subtitles in 7 languages on our website, on Vimeo and YouTube. And in conclusion, sisters working with victims need more resources, more material, more people to be even more effective in combating and ultimately eradicating modern slavery from our world. In meantime, they need our personal institutional support and they need also our prayers. And thank you for the good work they are doing and pray for us. And thank you for being with us today. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Anne.